Now turn your.
Yeah, phones have this way where you can share
Oh.
Wi-Fi passwords.
Patient hall afternoon. Position them towards themselves. And I'm sitting meditating, and there were arguments fought silently, like the sound of the fan. If one likes a bit more wind, comes turn. Constant passive bow of the fans as well. In which I noticed that we don't even have to have a station to have already starting that initial argument between themselves already inside. The person turned it off. I'm gonna go get them now, even without having a peak or cause anything that way.
Well, in the hot afternoon and the fan is running, what mentality would turn it off? Well, they can change their location, either themselves or the. Actually, it starts an argument, doesn't it?
But they already started the argument themselves by not liking that.
Not liking it.
And that carries on others.
Also, two other forms. There's another.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point, that people have arguments non-verbally. I mean, noble silence and all of that about the retreat, that if it hadn't been the quality of noble silence and somebody turns the fan on, I can hear 3 or 4 people saying, "Why? Why did you turn the fan off?" But we say it silently and go and. So here's the question: was the same person who turned the fan off the first time, were they the one who turned it off the second time?
Most of the time I have my eyes closed, but when I have my eyes open, it's usually same people, same 4 or 5 people that were deeply dissatisfied with particular sound. What I noticed, they liked a bit more quiet environment. They didn't enjoy the chainsaw that was in the background all the time as well.
But the funny thing is that the noise that they're trying to shut off is not the noise of the fan, it's the noise in their own mind about the fan. They don't like it. Is this fan noisy? Do you hear it?
No.
What kind of noise was happening at the fan? I mean, they normally don't make a lot of noise.
Yeah, it's like a small buzz, basically.
Pardon?
A small buzz.
Some of them were older, so they had a small buzz, but there were other noises in the background that you could single out as well.
One person said they didn't like the fans because they couldn't feel their breath.
That's a funny one.
Like underneath their nose. Because the fan was
Yeah,
blowing.
but they could feel the fan. If the wind was blowing on the fan, couldn't they feel that too? And were the fans just pointed or were they oscillating?
They're oscillating.
Okay, well there you go with your namatta, and all of that is, yeah, the fan is there, I can feel it. The fan is not there, I don't, except that I can. And then the fan is there again, and then it's not.
This brings up a question I had. Is there a Pali word for comfort? When you talk about comfort or being comfortable, we talk about being safe, secure.
Yeah, well, the word would be sukha.
No, sukha is applied to that as
Yeah,
well. Okay,
yeah, that's the whole show.
Gotcha.
feeling safe and secure and comfortable, satisfied. Yes. In the Thai language, the word is sabai.
Ah,
You've
sabai.
probably heard sabai, sabai.
Oh yeah, and about the pity, I wanted to ask. Well, I guess I already know, but it's from the congratulating that makes it really strong, right?
Mm-hmm. The recognition that you are successful,
Right.
that you were, you are, and you can do it again. Kind of. This is great.
You once mentioned the attitude of a world champion who has like it's like basically the world champion, and then there's somebody that's like who just won a couple of fights and is now gunning for him. I was imagining myself like walking into a stadium and like everybody applauding me.
Uh-huh.
Is it? I was talking to Daniel as well. Is it bad to do that because you are applying it to bad is also a judgment, but to yourself, like as a person, as in I am the number one.
When a lot of people hear that, they get into the Christian mentality of about pride cometh before a fall. You don't deserve to feel that good, which is a Christian teaching, because I mean, after all, we do have an Almighty God up there who is a whole lot better than you are, kind of mentality. But in the teaching of the Buddha, we recognize in more than one place that wherever the Buddha goes, he would be the center of attention. And that, in fact, in Thailand, in general, wherever the monks go, they're the center of attention. For instance, if there's a funeral, then the monks conduct the funeral. They're the center of attention. That's also true, by the way, in the West, is if a priest is conducting a funeral, he's the center of attention, not the corpse. Okay? So having that quality that wherever you go, you're the center of attention. And that there was 4 or 5 places where it was mentioned. For instance, if it's in a congregation, if it's in an assembly, like a court assembly or whatever like that, that you are just, as a noble, you recognize that you are the center of attention, but so is everybody else, but they don't know it. Everybody wants to be the center of attention, and they don't like it when they're not the center of attention. But the noble attitude is that I don't care what you're paying attention to. This place is mine.
I mentioned that with the word arrogance. We talked how you told me Buddha probably was the most arrogant person you know. And I brought this word up to a lot of people, and they say arrogance because they see it in a way of you're better than me. But they're not seeing the power that they have, the power to be as arrogant as you as well, if they chose to be arrogant.
Right. So that's the way that we look at it through the English language is that arrogance means that somebody wants to be the center of attention, but they really don't feel like that they deserve it. Okay. So they have the attitude of, well, I'm better than you are, but you better not challenge me on that, because I might lose. To where the attitude of the noble is that wherever I go, I'm the boss. This is it. This gives rise to, in fact, there is one of the precepts, and by the way, all the precepts came after the time of the Buddha, but there is that precept of Nacha Gita Watita Visukha Dasana Way Ramane Sakavadam Samatiyami. Now, Nacha is dance, Gita is singing, but the Nacha Gita Watida means watching, being in it. And then Sukhadasana means being a slave to entertainment. And where that applies is the fact that nowadays we have recordings, we have video, we have audio, we have music that's recorded. In the time of the Buddha, and in fact even more than 100 years ago, if you wanted to listen to music, you had to go to a show. That's what the Visuddhasana is that it's a show. And that the monks don't go to the show and be in the audience. That if you're going to go to the show, you're on stage. Now the example is, and I've seen videos of this, is an opera. Great big grand opera, grand hall, big pit orchestra, curtains closed and getting ready to do the thing, and the conductor and all the musicians are tuning up. And then in the big balcony, the Pope and a huge entourage walks in. And all the audience turns around and gives grace to the Pope and all of that, and he puts it down with a fine reception. And then everybody is paying attention to the Pope, and he gives it back to the orchestra director. And then the orchestra director says, "Thank you, Pope, for giving me back something that belongs to me in the first place." And then he tap, 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 and then the show starts, right? What's the Pope now that the show has started? He's just an audience. He's just part of the audience. He's no longer the Pope. He was the Pope when he walked in because he was the center of attention. This is the reason why monks don't go to performances, is because a monk is not an audience.
I didn't know that one.
It makes sense.
But what about modern day? I use the retreat as an example. We sit down as people. A lot of people look at meditation teacher and they look at how they're feeling, and they're looking at, are they feeling like a champion? Are they at the center of attention? And then they're comparing themselves while meditating. I'm not feeling as good as this meditation teacher. He looks like he feels really good. I'm not feeling good. So that means my meditation is not being successful. That's the same kind of attitude, like of victim mentality, what we place also in meditation retreats.
Mhm.
People. Not only that they already come in with this out of the womb, but they're using it continuously wherever they go.
Right. Well, let's put it this way. Did Achan Po ever walk into the meditation hall while Reinhardt was speaking? It's interesting. Did you actually notice then that wherever Achan Po goes, he's the center of attention? That he would not walk into the meditation hall when Reinhardt's giving a talk, because that would take the attention away from Reinhardt. And all the audience would be, especially if they know where they are. I mean, if it was the audience of Thai people, for sure, all the Thai people would turn from whatever monk and go to Achan Po. Okay. And that command that Achan Po has is what we're talking about. This is that you are the center of attention, and when people can pick up on that, that's what it is. So monks don't go to shows because they're not the center of attention. Achan Po would not go walk into the meditation hall when Reinhardt is speaking, because that would interrupt and take the power away from Reinhardt.
When Ajahn Paul walked in, it was the most simple and natural walking as well. It's like he belonged, like he's walking into his own. It wasn't anything of arrogance. It was just the most casual thing ever for him.
Yeah, just walking in like you've done it for years.
Walk in like you own the place.
Because he does.
Yeah.
Okay. But There would be, here's the point. If you were a new owner and you walked in like you owned the place, there would be that quality of arrogance. But if you had owned the place now for 45 or 50 years and you walk in because you do own the place, but no longer arrogant. It's because you belong here. Okay, so that there's a slight difference in the attitude. Maybe it's because I own this place, therefore I have arrived, versus I've arrived. So what if I own the place?
That's what I mean. It didn't matter if he owned the place or not. The question is not even if he owned the place, it's just that he feels like he
It
owns
feels
the place.
like that you're at home. This is my place.
Even if he didn't own the place, he walks in as he paid the money for the land, meant to be there.
And so that Christian phrase, the pride goeth before a fall, is because the pride is new. Like, for instance, a young king who's just been crowned is proud of the fact that he's been crowned, but if he spends 25 years as the king, he doesn't have the pride, but he does have the ownership. Okay, so that means that there's some maturity in there.
It's like the same with old and new.
Pardon?
It's the same with new and old money.
Yeah, there's this expression, new money versus old money. Okay, so the real noble experience is the experience of old money. Now, we normally get the idea of new money versus old money in the sense that grandpa made the old money and the grandson newly gets the money. But it doesn't have to be that way. Grandpa is the old money. Even when he's still alive, he made it. He's done it. He's got it for 40 years. And the grandson may not even have his granddaddy dead yet, but he's got that arrogance. So old money versus new money has that quality to it. And so becoming a meditation teacher then is like a new money.
Western one.
And noble is like in the old money. Then, in fact, that conversation that I had with Reinhardt was that he had been there since 2008. This was in like 2017, 2016, something like that. And he was surprised when I said that, oh, well, I was a student of Bhikkhu Buddhadasa himself. I was ordained in 1984. So you've been in the Dhamma now for 10 years. I've been in the Dhamma for 40 years. So there's the difference, okay? Is 10 years makes you a teacher. 40 years makes you an elder. There's a difference. That's the difference between an Achan and a Thera.
Yeah, Thera means elder, right?
Elder, right.
School
Like
of the elders.
Theravada, the
Right.
teachings of the elders, the ones who have been in it for 40 years or more.
And Achan is just. Does Achan mean that for his era?
Ajahn is 10 years.
10 years
Ah,
Achan.
okay. So why is it Achan Po? Because it's been more than 10 years.
Well, it's just been known as Achan Po for all of that time. That's in fact what makes him truly an elder, is because he doesn't care that they call him Achan.
Like Bhikkhu Buddhadasa calling his dog Long Po.
Yeah, like Achan Bhikkhu Buddhadasa didn't care to be called a Long Po. But he was called Tanachan, which is a little bit of an honorific. In fact, you may have heard even a Thai person at Depabhavan talk about it in the sense of Tanachan Po. Did you hear that? You probably didn't hear any Thai people. Okay. So they call him Tanachan.
What does it mean?
Oh, but it's higher
Because it sounds.
than Achan. But Long Po is the title that's often given for as a designation from the king.
Daniel said that he called his dog Long.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, his dog.
Well, that's because Bhikkhu Buddhadasa didn't care about titles, you see. That's the whole point then, is that a true noble doesn't care about the titles. It's the one who just got the title cares about the title. The new money cares about the money. The old money doesn't care about money. Because he's got it. So Bhikkhu Buddhadasa was pointing that out, that he gave the dog the title of Longpo.
Longpo.
Longpo, right. She knows her name is Lucky, which is a good name. She's a lucky dog. She knows you're talking about her too. Are you a lucky dog?
She's wagging her
Yeah.
Oh. You were wondering if you got into first jhana or not, right?
Oh yeah, I was actually.
What was that?
I had this moment during the retreat where I was wondering if I got into first jhana because I was basically had like this feeling of everything is super sharp, like I've never been more focused in my life, and not a worry in the world. Basically, I felt super good.
Yeah. Okay.
So I was asking Daniel, like, is that first jhana or not?
But it doesn't last.
No, it didn't last. No. It was
Okay.
like
Well, what can you do to get back into that state and get it to last? That's why we call it applied and sustained. Be able to apply it and get yourself into wow kind of experience, and then being able to maintain that. To be able to continue to see this garden that we live in as a paradise. Wow, this is great.
I find that when I get into those states, then, for example, I was walking around the stupa and then I saw the sea, but because I was feeling so good, then the sea looked so beautiful
So beautiful.
that it instantly took me out of that state because I started clinging to it.
Possibly because you started thinking about going down to the sea rather than enjoying it just where it is, down there.
It's very cool. Those images can appear immediately when you see water. You immediately feel the coolness. You feel yourself in shorts. You feel yourself in the beach, and it happens.
I think it was more like I saw the sea and then I saw the pleasure I was getting from seeing the sea. Then I got worried, oh, this is a worldly pleasure, so it's going to take me out of jhana. And because of that anxious thought, it pulled me right out of it. So, yeah. But, yeah, after all, it wasn't even a worldly pleasure, just something that entered my eye, like I wasn't craving it. So I just worried for no reason, basically. I can see it now.
Kind of the difference, I would guess, then, from the sense of the reality of being on top of the world to now wanting to dive in.
Right.
This is okay, this is wonderful. Wait a minute, I can do that now. And then it pulls us out of that state. So being aware that we're in that state then can help us remember to maintain it. Don't let that stuff get you to pull you back out of it.
So we need to remember to be on guard for those thoughts.
Yeah.
I would see it as well as you're feeling good and you're feeling good, and then you see the sea and you're like, oh, this is beautiful. This is more beautiful than feeling. That happens like that. That image sucks you in that this is more beautiful than feeling, instead of allowing it just to be another image in your vision.
Yeah, that's
It's a
true.
beautiful image, you acknowledge it, but then you don't dive into it.
Yeah, I was afraid to lose that image.
Hmm.
So it's basically
The image became more important than the feeling.
Yeah,
Or maybe going back into the scientific versus staying in the art, the experiential.
yes.
So that's one of the dangers then. Getting pulled out of the state that we're in. That when we're in such a really good feeling state, then all of the input, all the reality is so much brighter, more vibrant, more beautiful than it was before because we were seeing it through the lens of perception. Now that we're seeing it raw, it's just magnificent. And then we want that. And
So
when we want it, then we're pulled back into the perception of it again.
should I not look at the sea?
Pardon?
Should I not look at the sea at all? Because I know it's gonna.
Absolutely look at the sea and to know that it has an effect upon you or not.
You can concentrate it on the sea.
Yeah.
As meditation retreat, but you concentrated on the sea.
It was really like
Or
it
is
slapped me in the face.
or is it the idea of the sea that's more beautiful than the sea itself? Like what kind of the opposite what you have with
Mhm.
dukkha, where you, because what I said, but like for example, I had a relationship, and then the thought of the relationship is much more beautiful than the actual relationship, but that makes me attached. Is it the same with like wholesomeness, where you can like the thought of this is like much better than it actually is? So that's why I'm.
Maybe,
I don't
actually,
know, maybe I don't know.
it happened so quickly that I'm not sure what happened. I just know I saw the sea and it was just like, yeah.
The thing is, when we're practicing mindful eating in the hall, we were practicing a lot of mindful eating, and there's a lot of sensations when picking up the spoon, putting in your mouth. Those are just few, but there's also like your saliva, your teeth. There's so much going on, and in that moment as well as you see the sea, there's so much going on that you might not be able to see just because it sucks you in.
That's a good point. Mhm.
Is it because you have more mind moments because of your mindfulness that you have perceived more details of the sea? Is that why it appears brighter?
Yeah, it's sort of like oh, let's take the example of the distinction between raw footage versus processed. That a movie is done in the old days by silence, camera, action, and that all of that is part of the thing until the word cut, which is still on the thing, and then the camera cuts. But then they cut all of that stuff out of it. All the movie making is taken out, leaving only the action part. And then they splice all of that together in the movie. So basically, what a movie is when they take the reality out. Okay? So what happens then is that we do that with the mind. We see and then we start thinking about it rather than continuing to get input. But when we get more and more input, that's when the sea becomes more vibrant, more shiny, more beautiful. And then we start to process it again. And when we're processing again, we're losing that sensory input. So it's no longer real, especially if it has the quality of, oh, I ought to go swimming.
Yeah.
The sea is so beautiful now, I ought to go swimming. Not recognizing that thought of I ought to go swimming actually destroys the beauty of the sea.
Mm.
You don't even have to get down there to it. But if you do go down there to it to go swimming, it's not the same ocean as it was when you were up there on the mountain seeing it.
It's like in the mountains. When the mountains are so beautiful, I want to grab that image.
Mhm.
That's the feeling I got. Like I want to grab this
You want
feeling
to,
of seeing the sea.
That's why we take photographs. That's why we get our cell phone out. You can see people sitting on the beach having a magnificent sunset over the ocean, open ocean. And some people just sit there and take it in as the sun goes down. But others will have that attitude that you just have. Where's my cell phone? Let me get my camera out. I'm going to take a beautiful picture of that sunset. Well, the sunset is not a photo. The sunset is a process where the sun comes and down, and then the horizon, then it slowly goes down this way, only even more slowly than that. Okay, so a sunset is so magnificent because it's a process, not a photo, not an event. And so that sea that you saw was a vibrant event, not a photo, but you turn it into a photo in our processing. That's what pulls us out of the jhana. Is when we want to grab it, we want to hold it, we want to turn an event or a process into a photo.
So we got to get more sensory input.
Let's stay with that sensory input, right? Let's get more input. Let's get more data.
So does that then mean like no response?
Pardon?
Does that then mean no response?
Basically, yes. Let's not respond to the data we've got. Let's just get more data.
What about the gladdening of the mind? How do you balance it with getting the input? I play around with it. But
Okay. Well, first off, we're making a change of reference from taking sensory input into taking sensory input.
Right.
Okay, there's a difference.
Okay.
And that in the sensory input out there, we don't have real control over what's actually happening out there, but we do have control over the way that we're processing it. The same is true is that when something event is happening on the inside of the mind, we still now have the ability to change the way that we process it. This is the gladdening of the mind. Oh, I could be enjoying this. Or as you were there on the hillside looking at that sea being so vibrant, and then you can see, oh, wait a minute, I just did something and it's not so vibrant anymore. Let me go back to being in that state of being vibrant. Let me gladden the mind back up to that state again.
And when you want to, what I also find difficult, if you want to gladden the mind to get back into a state, that's kind of, yeah, it also is kind
Right.
of
Being able to repeat the process rather than wanting the process to be repeated.
yeah, fair point.
So again, we're back into control, that we're repeating the process rather than longing for it or hoping for it to be repeated. That's why often it's difficult for students to get back into first jhana once that they've got it, is because before they were just doing the process. Now that they've had jhana, now they want the jhana back, which is different than going through the process of getting it. It's the desire, we want it. And then we say, oh, never mind, I can get to first jhana, this is how we do it. Then you go back into it.
It's like it also never drops. There's this like fear of I went through such a process to get here that I have to repeat such a hassle. But it also can come back really quickly as it's within single mind moment of you being like, oh, I got sucked in, but let me go back to that thing I was doing before and come back with the same attitude. You come back immediately, like after that punch, you stand back up, you go with the punch.
it really feels like I'm avoiding even thinking of first jhana because I feel like when I think about it, then I'm gonna worry about it.
Actually, that's true. Um, here's the point. The word jhana and its assets and features were well known to the current population in the time of the Buddha. Now the word jhana is a foreign word. It's special. And because we've had Christianity, it's magical. And so it's better than for us just to remove the word jhana from our vocabulary and use words that do mean something that's not with that magical connotation, like getting ourselves into a good state. Now, somebody who's never been in a good state, that's not really possible. Being in a good state sounds magical. And when we start putting magical qualities to it, like being in the lap of God, that's a really magical way of saying that I feel really good. And so we can just stay with those kind of words like, wow, this is nice. Wow, this is so good. This is good enough.
And when you say, "Oh, let me get right back into it," isn't that like that seems to me like it would really easily.
Yeah, it is really easy. Once you practice,
It just seems like that would instantly that thought would lead me to me wanting it instead of getting it.
well,
I get it.
dukkha is wanting something that you don't have, right? So let me get right back into it is not wanting something you don't have, it's something you're creating right here now, right now. I want to get back into it. That's not having it. But let's go back there. That's the process of going into it.
Makes
But
sense.
if you want jhana, you ain't going to get it while you're wanting it. But when you're in that state of satisfaction, wow, this is so nice. That's the jhana. That brings it in.
Confidence of not being afraid to lose it as well. If you have like those thoughts, then you're like, okay, I have the confidence. I know how to I know my way back. It's
Yeah.
like knowing going on a hike and you know that your way back down the mountain is to having that confidence that you know how to get down or how to go up.
Yeah, true.
That moment, particularly when you say, oh, never mind, let's go back. Confidence.
Just need to keep practicing. Yeah. It's like the same with the right effort. When I've got the confidence and I can see really clearly what I need to do, then it's so easy to go back into it. And then I forget and
It's easy to do.
then
Just like the piano student who hears a popular song on the radio and then he wants to play it and he struggles with it. But if he keeps practicing it, pretty soon he can play right along with the radio. Then he can turn the radio off and he can play right along. But it takes practice. And guess what? We're all very well practiced at feeling bad. We have been practicing feeling bad since birth.
Yeah.
No infant, their first word is, I feel good. Wow, I'm so glad to be out of there. Wow, my first breath is so nice. No, we don't come out like that. We come out wailing, oh, something terrible has happened. So we start off as a victim, and we get well rehearsed in our victimhood in childhood. And then comes the teenage years, and that's when we really get into feeling bad. And so we're real rehearsed at feeling bad. The retreat is for learning how to feel good. To practice feeling good. That in fact the feelings of feeling bad is actually the hindrance itself of feeling good. Wanting to feel good is the hindrance of feeling good. Worried about feeling good, confused about feeling good, are all hindrances to actually feeling good.
Daniel, you mentioned that you were afraid to smile. That's like fear of. You said that you're afraid to smile sometimes.
Oh no, I forgot it.
You forgot to smile, or you were afraid to smile.
Yeah,
sometimes.
because I was sitting there with like this basically. I started getting a headache because I'm sitting like this.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, maybe
People are gonna think something of you or something like that.
Well, I don't know. I just felt like, oh, maybe, I don't know, maybe smiling is too much smiling or something. I don't know. So I tried to be like this, and then better than mine. Sort of as if you're trying to hold back a laugh, you know.
I bring that up because I smiled a lot through my meditations, and I noticed it's stirring up quite a lot of things in some people. And then I would attach myself into that thing as, oh, I'm guilty because I'm feeling good, and they might not be feeling it, even though I don't know how they're feeling.
Yeah.
But that there is that also sucking out every time out of that feeling is whenever I feel that victim, I shouldn't be feeling this good.
This feels so good, it should be illegal.
Yes.
That's a quote. Like
That's also Christian guilt for sure.
yeah, like we are supposed to like feeling good is bad, or there's something wrong with you, or I don't know.
Well, now here's a question for you that we can't answer. But under the guise of that the observer always bastardizes his own data. For instance, the bird watcher. When he's out watching birds, the birds know he's there. They're watching him. So the bird watcher is not watching birds in the nature. The bird watcher is watching birds watching him. The same thing is true about polls. People don't give you accurate answers on the polls. They think it through and then give you the answer that they want to give you rather than the actual facts. So in that realm, do you guys imagine that because of the four of you, there, knowing a bit more Dhamma, being able to smile through it, do you think that you had any effect upon all the newbies that were in the retreat?
Yeah, absolutely.
You actually could have given them a better retreat just by you sitting there and enjoying yourself and smiling.
That's how I felt most of the time. If they see me smiling, maybe they will be like, oh, maybe it's not that bad. Maybe I can feel good as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, there's, I think, 3 people that came up to me and said something of that regard of like, oh, it was so wonderful to see you smiling. It, inspired me or what have you. This sort of thing. And I
Doesn't
mean,
it look like it's your first time doing a retreat or something?
yeah,
Like
they'll say stuff like that. Yeah. But for me, it was my second retreat.
Yeah, so you guys did have an effect. And the other people told you that they're affected. That one person going into the retreat who's done retreats before, he knows what they're all about, can have an effect. But 4 of you.
We were the last one standing on several occasions. Like the session was already done, and there was like just 4 people left in the meditation hall. Just the 4 of us.
And a lot of times we wouldn't wait for the bell. We would just be there already meditating, walking around, sitting down, smiling.
That's what gives me confidence in this way of practicing, is that everyone who practices this method is generally much happier than the people in other traditions.
That has a lot to do with the way that it's taught. so that you can actually teach happiness. But they teach meditation instead.
Now, where's the happiness retreats?
That's a thought I had often. Like, I don't have to meditate. I can just be happy instead.
Uh-huh.
So do nothing, chill out, wait for lunch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you guys are in the retreat. I'm having a ball.
What are you retreating from?
Yeah, what are you retreating from?
When I met Michael, he said, I'm here just for lunch and cocoa. That's how I felt when sitting now, waiting for lunch sometimes.
Just chilling out. Then I'll eat.
So many people from the Sangha.
Yeah, it's
It
nice.
was a lot of fun.
Well, why don't we go ahead and turn this video off? We've had a nice
Sure.
chat here.
Yeah.